Yo, what's up, everybody? What's happening? It's, what day is today? Okay, now we're on. Here we go. So, before I get started, discount code. I'm going to talk about some stuff in the Beato book. Some of the stuff starts on page 93. Discount code is RB400, 30% off. Really anything in my store, but the Beato book is something that we work out of all the time. I tell people if you want to understand the channel, you should really have the book. And so all these concepts I'm going to be talking about are in the book. And this is a really simple concept that I use all the time and that I like to teach people. Whether you're playing over minor chords or major chords, we're going to start with a minor chord. We're going to start with G minor. And you have to know a couple things. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take the minor pentatonic scale, but learn it on the low E string. So you've got this. That's G minor pentatonic. So G, B flat, C, D, F. If I use the same scale on the low E string, G, B flat, C, D, F. Now, why these notes are important is because you can play some of these spread triad ideas. A lot of people ask me about the things that I play on Instagram that are these 1-minute improvisations that I do. For those of you that don't follow me on Instagram, it's Rick Beato 1. It's not Rick, somebody else said Rick Beato. And so they'll ask me, well, where do these melody ideas come from? And a lot of these things come from me playing chord structures built off the pentatonic scale. So let's say I have a chord like G minor. I'm playing G minor 11, but so here's my G minor chord. I'm going to play a G minor spread triad. And I'm going to use the 9th there. So G minor spread triad, G, D, B flat. Now I'm going to go up to B flat and play B flat major. And I'm going to do the same shape, but I'm going to use B flat major using the 9th. Okay, so I go 1, 5, 3, 5, 9. So that's a C. So here's G minor with the 9. So it's G minor, add 9. Okay, that's the next inversion. And then we go up to the next note of the pentatonic, C. And then we go up to D. So I did C, add 9. Then D minor, add 9. Then F major, add 9. Okay, so this is these are spread triads with one extra note in them. It's always the 9th. I'm playing the spread triad with the added 9th, depending on where it falls in the scale. When you're on G minor, add a 9th is the A. Then on the B flat, so it's B flat, add 9, so add the C. Then I go to C major and I add the 9, which is D. Then I go to D minor, add the 9, which is E. Then I go F major and add the 9, which is the note G. So you can do the same idea if you move up the scale, right? If I take just a G Dorian scale, for example. So you have to account for every note in the scale if you're using this pattern on the G string. So those are the notes. It's all F major here. Okay, so I'm playing. Now, if I were to go to the note A, you have to include that B flat there. So you get this kind of different type of sound there. It's not as, it's a little bit more dissonant against the chord. So if I have this chord sustaining and I'm playing over it, it's cool for a sequence, but it's not necessarily something that you're going to want to start your solo on, right? The important thing about those pentatonic notes is that those are all good notes to play. Okay, so even if I leave out the C, let's say I just do 1, 3, 5, 7, right? I think it'd be cooler to go like this on the way down. Okay, so now if I did the same thing with a major chord, let's say I've got B flat major, or actually let me do it this way because I'm playing only off the low E string right now. So if I take these same ideas and I moved 2 of them to the A string, okay? So I'm going to take this pattern here, and then do the D minor here, and do the F major here. Okay, so there, I'm not using as much of the guitar. I don't have to shift as far, right? Okay, I can add the C. Up. Then I'm back to G there. So you have to find these spread triad shapes. That's the first thing to do. These are all in the book starting on page 93. I've got a whole thing on spread triads. So I like to do it like this. There's 2 different ways to play these things, to play the spread triads. You hear me talk about spread triads all the time. But the fingerings of them, you can finger them a couple different ways. You can finger them where you're actually fingering like this, each note separately, or you can finger it like that for single note playing. Then here, okay, so that's the first thing to do. Play them as chords. Okay, once you learn where those chord shapes are, it makes it very easy to start moving around like that. Now, another thing that you can add to this, I want to stay on the minor chord for a second. In addition to adding these ninths, you can also add upper neighbor tones to these. This is kind of neoclassical. Somebody said that it sounds classic or classical, which it is. So let's talk about this tension note thing. So if I add a tension note to this, right? So I'm going to add a suspension before each one. So you've got this G minor here. Okay, I'm going to add the sus4 here. So then I'm going to go to F major, and I use the suspended 4 to the F, then that's a D sus4 to D minor. Then I'm going to go to B flat, but with B flat, I have to go like this. I have to use the sharp 4. And then G minor, I use the sus4, sharp 4 on that, sus4, Okay, so if I play that against my drone chord here again, let me play a little quieter here. Let's see. It's kind of distorted. Sorry about that. Let me do this again. Okay, hold on. There we go. To me, that's really beautiful. I love those kind of sounds and shapes. And then you can combine them. I can combine them by using the ninth and the sus4. So I'm just making up a. There's the ninth. I did the sharp 4 on that one then. Okay, so these kind of concepts here will allow you to break out and play some more interesting intervallic lines. If you hear me play lines like that, those type of lines where I'm using intervals, open fifths, so instead of using the spread triads, I'm using ninths. Here's a spread triad. Here's the open fifth. Okay, so I have that sound right there. And it's nice if you play these things in sequences. Okay, so this idea here. This. So if I do it diatonically, I love that. So here. So that's a beautiful line there. That's just using those, instead of spread triads, these would be a spread triad, but with sus2s as instead of the actual whole spread triad. So I'm using, instead of going, I'm just going right to that 9th. So 1, 5, 9, or like that. So once again, over a static chord, so love those. Very hard to play these things though. To play them really, those things are really hard to play fast. I'm not even hybrid picking that. I'm not hybrid picking. I'm alternate picking. If you can see this here, let me do this. Watch. Okay, those are really hard to do. All those open fifths. These are the same ideas as the spread triads. A spread triad would be that. So this is a spread sus2 chord. Okay, so or open triad. That's another word for these things. So between having the spread triad and then adding the ninth, all those kind of ideas there will open up your playing, where you don't just get into these ruts of playing scalar, where you're just, What's up, Phil? Good to see you. Thank you. You're back. If you get into these ruts like that, where you're playing these pentatonic patterns and things like that, and you want to break them up with some intervallic playing. It just makes your, I think it makes your playing sound way more interesting. And these are the sounds that I like to hear. I did this improv thing on Instagram yesterday that was in C Lydian, and some people wrote to me and they said, how do you think of these things? Well, these are the concepts that I use. By the way, discount code for today's live stream, RB400. So it's 30% off the Beato book or anything at my store, really. This is pretty much how I make money on my channel. The last two videos I did, Deftones. I don't know if you guys have seen the Deftones, What Makes This Song Great. That was one of my favorite ones. I love the song Minerva. It's a killer song. I actually went to my junior high, I didn't mention it in there, was called Minerva DeLand. This is the person that founded I think this was like a math teacher or something that was around in the 1800s from my hometown. But when I hear the name Minerva, that video, and then my Jonas Brothers video. Now, obviously, those videos that I do get demonetized immediately when I use songs like that to teach concepts. And I do that because you can't teach a concept. I always say this, but I'm going to say it again. You can't teach a concept without playing music that people are familiar with. And I don't, and the demonetization, I'd rather have my videos demonetized and teach the things that I want to teach, because you can't learn that playing the safe game of doing YouTube videos where where you never use any music or anything like that. I know so many of my friends that don't even like to use music in there, or just put drum beats or do whatever and everything. And it's like, I came to this decision a long time ago that if you're trying to get, if you're worried about views or view count and making money from these things at the expense of the things that you're teaching, it's ridiculous. So I decided then that I'm going to teach exactly what I want. Doesn't matter if the videos get demonetized. That is, and honestly, I used to complain about it and stuff, but I stopped complaining about it. It's like, nobody wants to hear me whine about that. Who cares about that, And why does it get demonetized? Somebody just put that on there. Why demonetized? It's, it's every band makes a decision as to how much of their song can get played on YouTube. Some of them have a zero play policy. And I want to say this while I have people on here. When people ask me, hey, why don't you ever have Randy Rhoads? Why don't you do anything about Randy Rhoads? I can't play anything of Ozzy's at all. I just can't. If I play anything of Ozzy's, I had a Randy Rhoads solo in one of my videos. This really ticked me off too. I'm just gonna go off script here. I played a Randy Rhoads, hey Elliot, I played a Randy Rhoads solo. It was part of an improvisation from a live Ozzy gig, and I had it in my guitar 1980 through 89 video, I think. And from mentioning Ozzy Osbourne, look, I just did it in the stream here because I said Ozzy. Google can read, YouTube can read everything that's said. Everything I say in here is transcribed as soon as the video is done. So there's people out there that are looking, Ozzy's people that he hires look for this. They have it's done by bots, but they look for these things. And just because I mentioned Ozzy's name, it blocked my video. It didn't demonetize it, it blocked it. So I had to snip out, using the editor afterwards, I had to take out about, 18 seconds of me talking about Randy Rhoads from the time I said Ozzy Osbourne. Now he's probably going to demonetize this video right here just because I said Ozzy Osbourne. But this one, I don't care because I will fight this one. And I never fight these demonetization things. It's a waste of time. But I want you guys to know that this stuff is really important. You can't teach things by doing things, this sounds like Led Zeppelin, or this sounds like, Pantera, or it sounds like Tame Impala, or whatever it may be. There's no, if I want to talk about, hyper quantizing or something in which is what I call the Jonas Brothers, what I was talking about, the drum break in that Jonas Brothers song that this New York Times critic was saying is stupefyingly funky. And I just thought I wouldn't have made the video if he didn't make these ridiculous claims about this. It's stupefyingly funky, and then compare it to James Brown. Look, I use quantizing. I've used quantizing in the past when people's time is bad. You have to quantize it sometimes. You got to fix it because you don't want to have a recording where, the drums are horrible and nobody wants to listen to it. So, but if you ask people, if I asked the drummer on that, Homer, who's a great drummer, if he liked being quantized, he would say, of course not. They hate it. Every one of my drummer friends that are session drummers hate quantizing. I got texts from so many drummers after that love the fact that I said this, because they don't have a platform to say this stuff at, and they're still out there working with producers who are taking their great drum tracks and quantizing them. And why are they doing this? They're doing it because they can't tell, the producers, to me, there's two reasons. Number one is that people have gotten so used to hyper quantizing. When I say hyper quantizing, I'm talking about quantizing to the 16th note, taking all the swing out of it, any imperfections, any hi-hat hit that's off the grid. And then the thing about it, some people are like, Prince used a drum machine, blah, blah, blah. This hyper quantizing goes along with hyper compression on the drums too, where the drum hits are so compressed that they all are of the same amplitude. And when you hear that, it just sounds fake. Anything that had feel gets reduced because you've taken all the dynamic range away. So even if you quantize it, it doesn't really sound like a drum machine. So, this is why, and wait, getting back to this. So I think a lot of producers get worried about this because they get hypersensitized to everything that they hear on the radio has been quantized. A lot of times if you use a real drummer, you have drum loops going on, you have, whatever it might be. And it doesn't quite sound right. It doesn't fit in. It flams with things. And I think that one of the issues is that it's funny. All the side chain compression that you hear in pop production, whether it's Max Martin or whoever it is, that you hear a lot of EDM artists do. There's a lot of side chain compression that what it does is it squashes the initial transient of the note, and you have the note bloom afterwards. Well, this actually to me reduces that quantized sound and actually creates groove, because you're not having a bunch of things hitting. By ducking the attacks of these things, of certain instruments, it creates movement even with things that are quantized. Even if you had a even if you have an EDM 4 on the floor kick at 127 BPMs. So that ducking right there that creates, you hear it in dubstep, and you hear it in all different types. Any type of electronic music now. There's tons of sidechain compression. And that is there because they're trying to create groove, because everything has been hyper quantized. If it's either done on MIDI or when you have real instruments, real people playing, they go in there and they fix everything. Like they would fix all these little guitar bits and quantize those. Everything gets quantized to the grid, And when I heard that Jonas Brothers thing, I just thought, come on. Somebody from here sent me this. Like, you got to check out this New York Times thing where this guy's talking about Jonas Brothers. And I was like, oh, what is this? I click on it, and this professor comes up. And this professor, I'm sure, is a great guy and everything, but it's like, come on. Then they play the break, and I had heard the song. I mean, I knew the song, The Sucker. And I was like, okay. But when he compared it to James Brown, I was like, give me a break. James Brown? Clyde Stubblefield? It's like, it's nothing like that. It is nothing like that. Right? It's like, as soon as I hear it, it's like, that is just hyper quantized. It's quantized in the 16th note. There's a reason that every DAW, Ableton, Logic, Pro Tools, every DAW comes with groove templates. A groove template is something that is not to the grid to create. It's made to actually make things sound realistic. And every DAW has groove templates because you don't want to have stuff that's in programming. You want to have stuff that actually sounds like it has movement to it, where it's not just with the grid. Okay, but then when they go in and they take a real drummer who's probably playing it really funky, and then they think, oh, great take. The guy leaves, and then they get the editor in there and they use, they chop it up, elastic audio, whatever, and then they move it all together on the grid, and and then all of a sudden you got that hyper quantized sound. You see people like, Jay Dilla, when he was, he got away from quantizing with his beats because it didn't sound right to him. He was an improviser. All you have to do is go back pre-2000, okay, and you get to the era where you don't have this hyper quantizing. So it's really from 2009, because Beat Detective came out around 99 or so, but people did not start using it. People did not start using it all the time until about 2001. So if people wonder why I do a lot of my What Makes This Song Great records, Peter, calm down or you'll damage yourself. People wonder why why on my What Makes This Song Great, why I focused on things like the Deftones, for example, came out in 2003. That's one of the latest ones I've done. And it's really because of that's when the quantized movement, hyper quantizing started. Hyper quantizing and hyper compression, or limiting. You hear about the loudness wars and stuff, and this was really a demise. When you started losing all the dynamics in music, and you lost all the feel to music. Not all. I'm not saying there's great stuff out there that has great feel to it nowadays. And the way they brought feel back in is by using sidechain compression and things like that to actually deal with these problems. So it's an interesting thing, and go to the comments section or just type in Jonas Brothers New York Times or something, or Funky New York Times, and it'll come up. It's from about 3 weeks ago, the video thing, and the Professor Sloan, who I'm sure is a great guy. This isn't to trash him or anything. I'm sure he's an incredibly great guy and he's a smart guy, but the hyperbole, and I'm as guilty of it myself, of hyperbole, because that's in my nature. But you're not going to hear me try to compare the Jonas Brothers with Prince or with James Brown. Come on, Anyways, okay. So I got a little bit off the reservation here. Discount code RB RB400, 30% off anything in my store. This is how I support myself when because my videos all get demonetized. Even the ones that I had the video, my one that I did with Dave last week where we did the different speaker comparisons, and I played AC/DC. I played Highway to Hell, but I must have played it too close to the tempo, and it got demonetized immediately, instantly, just by me playing those chords. It's like they own A, D over F sharp, and G. Come on, give me a break. It's ridiculous. AC/DC, they love it. They like going in there and grabbing the money. So there you go. All right. So The Glorious Return of Funk by Nate Sloan. David just put it in there. So that's what it is. So that's The Glorious Return. I think that you could have used some other, he could have focused on someone else other than the Jonas Brothers. But anyhow, your tone was spectacular in that. I'm not sure what that was, but I tried not to be, my tone in that video. Yeah, and the thing, I have a new video I want to do. I was talking about an Instagram live yesterday that I'm going to do the amplifiers of doom metal. And you guys are thinking, some of you like doom metal. I know that you do. But I'm going to do a thing about, because there's a whole series of amplifiers that are related to doom metal. Like Sun Model Ts, Sun Beta Leads, Orange Overdrives, Mad Amps, things like that. Those of you that know doom metal know what I'm talking about. There's a certain amplifier aesthetic that goes along with that genre of music that I think is absolutely fascinating. So we'll talk about. I'm going to do a video on that too. So, anyways, this has been fun. I got a little bit off here. You guys are amazing. JSC, thank you so much. I appreciate that. There you go. I know Laney Super Lead. Yeah, it's a super group. Well, it's really the Laney Clip. Well, it could be the Laney super group. You've never heard of doom metal, Ken? Well, you'll hear of doom metal when you see the video. You'll get a good kick out of it. It's low tuned, slow, really heavy, distorted tones, played through really particular amps, and a lot of the bands would use 612 cabinets with 3 or 6 12-inch speakers in a cabinet, massive cabinets and everything. It's awesome. Love it. All right, you guys are great. You know what to do. Thank you so much. Have a great day. RB400, support the channel. Think about becoming a member of the Beato Club too. We'll see you guys. Bye.